And you can see the destruction of the house. As you can see, the house was on flames. There's 2 floors. Everything was on fire. And coming back a year later and seeing that the building is still standing, the cookies are still here. A year passed.
A year has passed, and the crumbs of burnt cookies are left untouched in the oven. Almost everything in Kibbutz Be'eri has been untouched for the past year. The scenes of October 7th still somehow frozen in time.
It was horrific, horrific scenes.
It's a year past. And I can remember like it was just this moment. The smell, I can still feel it. Feel the smell.
These are the volunteers that were tasked with the unimaginable.
For 2.5 weeks, we collected the bodies and the remains of the people that got killed.
אתם יודעים מה היה פה אחרי יומיים, אחרי 3 שנשארו בשמש? זה אי אפשר, זה ריח שלא יוצא מהמוח, שלא יוצא בפנים.
I've seen bodies, but here it was, you know, it was totally different. First of all, the amount of bodies. I've never seen that many bodies at once. And the state they were in.
The bodies ZAKA volunteers had to collect from southern Israel weren't killed. They were massacred.
You describe different situations and you think to yourself, what's the worst scene that you could see? This body over here was burned, but in the skull there was a knife. And on the back of the skull there was still a piece of a hammer. The middle piece was still connected to the skull.
There are countless stories of torture from October 7th just like this. But these aren't the stories ZAKA chooses to focus on.
This is the house that the family that survived the horrific situation that they went through. As you can see, there's nothing remained. There's nothing.
At least that's what ZAKA Deputy Commander Simcha Greenman thought, until the family asked him to return to the ashes before the house was razed.
And he says to me, please go back to house number 80. And I say, what is there to do in that house? I know that people survived over there, but there's nothing left from that house. He says to me, we survived, the mezuzot survived.
And sure enough, 4 mezuzot survived the fire.
And this is what I keep with me all the time, going around the world speaking about civilians giving hope after the disaster that they went through over here. So this is what gives me the hope to continue.
Hope is a common message among ZAKA volunteers.
For me, being in Be'eri again and seeing this spot is actually a spot of hope. It's a spot that says, you know, Am Yisrael, we're together, we're one, and we will thrive, we will, you know, survive.
ארגון זק"א לקח על עצמו את המשימה של חסד של אמת, של כבוד המת, לטפל במת בכבוד הראוי לו לפי הערכים היהודיים. אנחנו מטפלים גם במוסלמים לפי הערכים המוסלמים. צ'רקסים, כל אחד אנחנו יודעים להגיד לכל אחד מה צריך וכו'. וזה הארגון היחיד בעולם שזה כל מטרתו, במדינה היחידה בעולם, שזה ערך עליון. איזה כבוד להיות במדינה כזו. ואנחנו יודעים להגיד היום שארגון זק"א מה שהוא עושה, בכבוד המת זה הרבה יותר כבוד החי.
Which they do every day, war or no war, responding to incidents around the country.
We all have to remember that ZAKA is out there every day.
All while living with the trauma from that dark Saturday.
I will always have the pictures in my head. I will always have the smell in the back of my mind. I will always be, you know, I see the world through October 7th.
Images ingrained in her mind for a year.
I don't know if closure will ever happen, but I think forgiveness maybe, because we have to forgive ourselves that this happened. You know, people are walking around with a lot of guilt feelings of how did we not see, how did we not know.
Despite all the pain, the ZAKA volunteers say they'll continue to respond to any calls for action. Grateful to do so.
I really felt privileged that I was allowed to be here and to do this holy job.
Reporting in Kibbutz Be'eri, Nicole Zedek for I-24 News.